Hi, my name is Neil, and I'm sharing videos at the moment on encouraging people how to learn a language, how to jump in first, and start to learn a new language when maybe they don't have that experience before. So my previous videos, what I talked about is what goals you might want to um, set for yourself. Like, do you want to get to level A1, level A2, level B1, level B2? How much time do you think you might take to get to those levels? Then also some of the ideas of where to study, what to get language input from without taking a class. I shared in the first video about a little bit of my own experience of being a complete disaster, total disaster in language learning when I was in school, but I am becoming very good at it later on in life. So by my mid 20s, I think by the time I was in my mid 20s, about 25, 26 years old. I've been living in Portugal for a couple of years, and I was able to communicate very effectively in Portuguese with very good pronunciation. But I want to get off the point of the actual language learning at this moment, and maybe share a little bit more about my other area that I work with a lot, which is intercultural. I do a lot of intercultural work in companies where maybe the teams are made up of a multitude of different countries and languages. Um, and so how to work together as an intercultural team. And I work on a virtual team, and we're from about 6 or 7 different countries and several different languages. And I'm going to pick on an example. I've been interested in Spanish and can get by. I've got a lot of Spanish speaking friends from South America and also through Spain. And it's a language that is, in some ways, is close to Portuguese. There are some differences, key differences. There are words that mean something in the one that mean something completely different in the other. I really like Spanish music. And there are things about going to Spain that I enjoy. When I was in my late teens, I spent 6 months, I think it was, probably around about 6 months in Spain, around the southern coast and the eastern coast of Spain. And there's a lot about Argentinian and Colombian and Peruvian and other South American cultures that I really enjoy. So it's the whole idea of whichever language that you're thinking of learning is to become interested in more than just the language, but also things about the culture, stuff about their music, stuff about their food. There's a great channel on YouTube called Korean Englishman. And there's these two guys. One of them is married to a Korean. He studied in Korea. And so they introduce Korean food to people maybe who've never had the experience of eating Korean food. They both went to a school in London where they introduced some of the kids to Korean food. And then there was a point then where they had built this relationship with these kids, and they took the kids when they finished secondary school. They took them to Korea for a few weeks, together with the head and some teachers from the school. And they just got so immersed in the culture, and he was showing them all these cultural things, specific things about Korea, and really changed the whole trajectory of these kids' lives, where they became much more interested. They said, I remember one of them, when the kid said, "I want to live in Korea for a little while," kind of really learn the language, and so on. And so learning about a culture, not just the language, really is a stretching experience, a rich experience where you get to understand different ways about how people think, different ways about how people live. Sometimes you get an opportunity to spend a little bit more extended time in those countries. You become more motivated to get to know people from those countries. When you find them locally, going back to Portuguese, here in Cafili, near where I live, there's a Portuguese cafe. So I sometimes go there and get surrounded and see some of the produce and so on. Or there are these things about culture which are enriching and fun and expand your horizons and make you think about different countries in a very, very different way. Get to know a little bit about the cultures, and the culture doesn't mean just knowing what parties or what music. There's so much more about the culture, finding out how people think, which also in terms of getting back to the idea of working in a situation like in a hospital where you are working with people from different cultures, different people communicate in different ways. Different people, different cultures have different ways of believing things, um, different ways of being embarrassed, different ways of expressing their emotions, different ways of making friends, different ways of socializing, different types of humor. And the fun thing, the cool thing is to get to know those different things, picking up little bits and pieces from these different cultures. Uh, so yeah, culture, culture, culture. Thank you for listening.